Hello again, welcome back to the channel. Glad you could join me. Today I want to talk about The River of Dancing Gods by Jack L. Chalker. There's some interesting things about this book, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But the premise, the setup is that it starts on Earth, on what we would think of as the real world. Joe is a trucker, and he picks up the hitchhiker Marge. Marge and Joe have had a difficult time at life. If I remember correctly, Joe is kind of, my life is at a dead end, and Marge was trying to escape an abusive relationship. And they meet a wizard. His name is Throckmorton P. Ruddigore. He stops them and says, look, you guys are going to die in 19 minutes and 18 seconds. And I have a way for you to escape that. And you just have to agree to come with me to another world. So in that position where they're told they're either going to die or they are going to be able to have a second chance at life, they decide to go for the second chance at life, and they are transported to a world called Husaquar. Throckmorton P. Ruddigore is kind of the good wizard, and he is trying to prevent the efforts of the Dark Baron. The Dark Baron being the big bad evil guy in Husaquar. Now, this is kind of, pretty much straightforward. However, Joe and Marge don't stay Joe and Marge. When they get transported, they also get transformed. So Joe becomes a Conan the Barbarian type. He, big guy, huge muscles, swordsman. Marge, on the other hand, Marge becomes, if I remember right, somewhat of a fairy creature. Still female, but definitely becomes a much more beautiful incarnation of herself. It's not that she wasn't beautiful on Earth, it's just that she was more plain. And now she is an exotic beauty in this world. And she now has magical powers. So they go through their training to become heroes, to help fight the Dark Baron. So that's pretty much the setup for what's going on here. Now, as far as everything else is concerned, I said there were a number of things to unpack here. One of the things to unpack here is that this world exists because of heaven and hell. Heaven and hell use Husaquar as kind of a staging area for their battles. If hell can take over Husaquar, then they can use that as a foothold to then invade the real world, where heaven then is attempting to stop them from accomplishing their ends. To that end, they employ Throckmorton P. Ruddigore to find heroes to help fight for the cause, to keep everything in balance so that the real world is safe. The other thing is that that Husaquar exists and is very tightly controlled by a series of rules. Now, which rules apply to you is a lot of times based on what it is that you are and what it is you're trying to do. For instance, Joe is a barbarian. Being a barbarian, he can't wear a lot of clothes. He has to wear, basically the barbarian shorts that you find on He-Man, or the stuff that Conan the Barbarian would wear. So a lot of exposed skin and muscles. And the same goes for Marge. Marge is now a very beautiful woman, so that means that she can only wear skimpy outfits, and this is codified in the rules. So there's a lot of this going on. So that, like I said, there's these rules that govern the world, and they're very tightly controlled. So much so that if you fail to abide by those rules, you it's not like you break a rule and you're fine. Sorry about that. There are a lot of consequences to breaking the rules. You have to be very careful and very judicious if you are going to break those rules, because there are serious consequences that follow. You may end up stop being the thing that you were before. So if you were a barbarian and you stopped living by the barbarian rules, you would no longer be a barbarian. It's not just like I'm a barbarian who is exhibiting an understanding of civilization. No, you stop being able to access those abilities that you had as a barbarian. So I found it interesting, this interplay between, heaven and hell for one thing, and the rules that they had to follow. That this is usually you have people that go from the real world to, say, a fantasy world, and suddenly they're the sky's the limit. Everything is wide open. They can do whatever they want. But this is very, very restrictive in that case. It's very restrictive of what you can do and what you can be, even if you, especially if you ignore the rules that your class is based on. I read recently a criticism of the River of Dancing Gods, because I was looking to refresh my mind, the plot, the characters, all that kind of stuff, and one of the criticisms that I read was that the author was trying to be subversive by pointing out these rules and stuff. I don't feel that was the case. I don't feel that he was trying to subvert the rules or being subversive. I think that he was pointing out the rules as kind of a what's the word? It wasn't necessarily a commentary on the rules, but kind of a poking fun of these rules. So the fact that you have these swords and sorcery type video games, movies, books, what have you. So you have these type of things, and the authors of these IPs incorporate the same tropes all the time. And it's, again, like I said, if he was going to be subversive about it, it would be more like what Terry Pratchett did in, I believe it was The Light Fantastic. The Light Fantastic has a mercenary, a band of mercenaries led by a woman, and he, instead of using the trope of like the chainmail bikini and that kind of stuff, it's like, no, she is sensibly armored, and she has, none of the skin showing that would usually do in a book of this type. Whereas I think that Chalker is taking it to the extreme of codifying these things and being like, look, we have to, it's the code. We have to do it this way, and kind of pointing out how stupid it is. So, well, I mean, I guess maybe in that way he's being subversive, but I don't think it was being subversive in the way that the critic was talking about. For me, it was, if he was going to be subversive about it, he would try to subvert the trope. In this case, he's pointing out the trope and making it ridiculous and kind of saying, look how dumb this is. Anyway, all that stuff aside, I found the book to be okay. At the time I got this book, I picked up this book and the second book in the series, and I've read them both. at the time that I was getting into this series, if I recall, there were 4. There may be more, I don't remember. But at the time, there were 4 books in this series. And I was thinking, well, I'll read these 2 now, and then I'll get the other 2. And it just, to me, it didn't seem to be worth it to get the other 2. It's just like, meh, I'm good with these ones. So it's just okay. If you're interested in something that's slightly humorous and that has the swords and sorcery type of world, this is something that you may be interested in. But I don't know that I'd necessarily go out of my way to track this down and read it. It's just okay. Anyway, that's it for today. Like, subscribe, share, all that other stuff. And until next time, enjoy what you're reading.